take stock of where we are in our own process, what values we aspire to, and how we can imagine to live those values in new and powerful ways. So please help me in introducing April to do our talk today, and her subject is the value-led life. The value-led life.
Wow, it's hard to, I'm sorry you people on Zoom can't see this, but there's just no space left in this place. It's amazing. And I'm so grateful for each and every person that showed up this morning, that was here last night, to the wee hours we were setting up, and I was like, I should have crashed on the couch downstairs. I'm going to be back here in a few hours. But anyway, can everybody hear me okay? I don't know if this seems I can get loud, so we're all good. So, as everyone knows, I usually like to start with a little joke. I know we're a little sleepy and we're a little getting out the cobwebs, but there was a healing circle that I was conducting a couple of weeks ago, and it was really a good one. Like I felt that the affirmations were going well. I felt that there was real healing happening, and afterwards we were putting the chairs back, and a gentleman that I didn't recognize came up and said, I think this is all a scam. It didn't work. You know, I came here feeling a particular way. Your healing circle did not work. And I'm saying, well, I'm sorry that it, didn't come about for you, but there is no time limit. And maybe later, and he goes, no. He says, I'm telling you, I'm not the only one. He said, the guy in the wheelchair got up and walked out halfway through. So, value-led. How does this joke work with our value-led ideas? The reason being is we follow spiritual tools, spiritual principles, that because we're on the cutting edge, because we're on the forefront of spiritual teaching, a lot of people look at a lot of things that a lot of us believe in and think it's woo-woo. Well, that's good for you. You just keep thinking your positive thoughts. I'm going to keep up with my antidepressants or whatever anyone's taking, which is totally fine. That works. But also, so does what I believe in and what I try and emulate in my life. And there are times when you're going through things and you think, you know what? It would be just easy if I went with everybody else and said what crappy things are and how horrible things are, because it's just easier than always trying to put a different perspective on things, right? Sometimes it's just easier to go with the flow, but why don't we do it? Because we have values. We have things that we really feel are important, and we want to show other people that they work. So this is living that value-led life. Why is it important? Because when we turn against those things that feel so important to us, something inside us dies. Something inside of us gets pushed away, gets quietened. And so our highs aren't as high, right? We don't experience the joy that we get when we're totally living from that place, that this is what I believe in. I was listening to a comedian, and I thought this was hilarious because it was somewhat like me. And this comedian was saying that before COVID hit, he thought of himself like the mercenary from the government, right? That he was going to be the one that was not going to be dictated to, and he wasn't a sheep, and he wasn't going to do all this stuff. And he said when that first vaccine came up, he was pushing little old ladies out of the lineup to get his job. I mean, I'm sure a lot of people did things that we look back now and go, oh, wow. We made some weird choices washing our groceries as they came in the door. I mean, things we can laugh at now. And maybe some of us felt like, wow, I've worked so hard at keeping fear at bay. And I opened up all the doors and windows to it when all the media, everything was showing me something different. And it was interesting because there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with following advice and complying to help others or whatever the situation may be. But then there's also people that really had certain values. Maybe they weren't mine, but certain values, and they stuck to them. And they feel good about their choice, just as lots of us feel good about our choices. So it's not about someone's values being wrong and mine being right. It's about allowing everyone to live to their truths, to what they feel calls them. And Martin jokes that I usually play his music a fair bit when our band isn't here. He has a song where the line is that says, find yourself being calmly pulled by the strength of your soul, the wants of your soul. And I love that line because it's about living from that place inside of you, that value within inside of you. And Audrey did a lovely, for those who don't know, I'm not Audrey Beaudry, but Audrey did a lovely talk last week about the inner landscape and looking for, going within, going into that place and going, what is it? What do I stand for? What moves me? What am I constantly in love with about myself or about this world? And that's where we start to get hints at our values. Now, I did put out some sheets around, and feel free to share them. There's a list of core values. I believe this list is from Brene Brown. And there's one on the front here, Terry. And what's wonderful about that is the exercise, and you can find it online too easily, there's lots of it. You go and you pick 15 values that you really believe in. And sometimes that's hard because you're like, well, of course I believe in honesty, and of course I believe in such and such. But this is about, for you, what speaks to you all the time, what resonates with your soul. So, doing these teachings, being consistent to the spiritual principles in which I believe in, is one of my core principles. So you go from 15, you go to 5, and then you try to pick 2. And the reason being is it's a lot easier for us to focus on 2 than 15 different things. If you ever gone to do, a lot of the time when we go to do spiritual mind treatment, and as a practitioner, you're with someone and you're sort of like, well, what would you like to focus on? Well, I'd like to meet somebody, I'd like a lot of money, and the list, right? And sometimes it's like, okay, which is the most important? Which can I take off your plate? So it's kind of like that with these values. Try to see if you can get down to 2 that totally speak to you, that you think no matter what, I don't want to break with this. And Michael Beckwith calls this being loyal to your soul. And aren't there things you've done when you look back? They're the little things you remember doing, they're the little things you remember experiencing or having said, and they still bother you. Why do they do that? Probably because they went against your values, they went against your soul. And that is really hard to come to terms with, because it's not really about the hurt we did someone else. It's the hurt what we were doing ourselves in that process, right? So what I love about this practice is once you get your values, the 2 that mean the most to you, every decision in your life goes on that template. So let's say it's honesty you picked. Everything that you go to do, every exchange you have with someone, everything you go to buy, every time you try to haggle someone on Marketplace at a fair value of their product, say, am I being honest? Put it up to that template. And if you do that with your value, you're going to love yourself. It's going to be so much better for your soul, because that is something that's very important. So as I said, doing the core principles here is one of my values, is demonstrating how this works. And times it's tough. Times you're just like, oh, I know I gotta let go, I know I gotta hand this over to Spirit, but it's really hard. Can somebody else just take this for me? And what I love about this is that I think if someone doesn't demonstrate it, if I don't demonstrate it, who will? If I'm at the end of a life well lived, and I can look back and say I stuck to that value, I demonstrated it all my life, no matter how it turns out, no matter how it ends, it will be good with my soul. I will be happy. So there were three things that we're talking about today. One being attention, one being passion, and one being belief. And these are all facet ideas of living a value-led life. So first one, attention. So there's a lovely quote from Michael Beckwith. As the alchemist of your own life, find a bit of the frequency you want to experience and place your attention there. As it becomes your perception, live from there. So what's this mean? Well, for us to demonstrate, to have a manifestation of a thought, the concept is a little bit of whatever you're looking for has to be within you. So if there's a value that you're looking at, that little bit of that value or a lot of that value, you already affirm in your daily life. It's already something there. So if you were like a compulsive liar, you probably wouldn't pick honesty as your value, right? Because you would have a really hard time finding that frequency. And it would feel odd, and you'd be continually in conflict or in chaos with trying to do something different, because it's just not within you. So when you think about things like that, think about something that's within you. So if there's another value, I think I left my sheet down. Oh no, I did it here. Just so I can pick a different one. So let's say kindness. I think probably everyone in this room has got kindness within them, even a small speckle, right? So what he's talking about here is we're growing it. So you've got this little frequency, little tiny frequency of kindness, and you're looking for it inside. Maybe you find it in meditation, maybe you find it petting your dog or your cat or talking to someone nice on the street, right? You get in touch with that feeling, what that kindness feels like. And then you start growing that frequency. So we do mindfulness, we do meditations, we use all the spiritual tools, visioning, anything to grow the frequency, the idea of kindness. If that's your value, then everywhere you look for the opportunity to demonstrate that value that's so important to you. Every time you demonstrate it, it grows. The more it grows, the more the frequency starts with law of attraction coming back to you. Then you're just feeling good. Then you're like, oh, my soul's really liking this kindness stuff. Gets bigger, more comes. So it gets to the point where you could get, with the frequency of kindness, you could walk into a room and instantly everyone feels safe with you. Instantly, everyone starts talking to you. I had a sister that emulated this, my oldest sister. We would go anywhere and people would flock to her in lineups. Like, we waited to go pay for something. We used to joke about it all the time. We said it was like she was a celebrity. We'd be sitting at a table having lunch and people would come up to her and just start talking to her and sharing stuff. And we all said the same thing. She was the epitome of kindness. You just felt it. You always felt safe. Always. So she grew that frequency. And she attracted kindness back. She had so many people that went out of their way, if we were in situations, people that would look kind of grumpy coming up. The minute she spoke, their face would change. and there would be so much kindness. But she also paid attention to that. She looked for opportunities to be kind, but also if something wasn't right, she would say, I can't do, it just doesn't feel kind to me. I can't do that. And, you know, she always was the type that, you know, when the Jehovah's Witness or the Mormons would come, she would invite them in to the foyer because she just couldn't be unkind. The funniest one was when she invited the Mormons in. They go by elder. I think it's like their missionary. So it's Elder Smith or Elder John. But I happened to be over there the day she invited in the two young Mormon missionaries. And she said, oh, that's so amazing. You both have the same first name. They were kind of looking really confused for a minute. And then I had to leave the room because I was laughing. But you know what? They weren't insulted. They just smiled and they said, oh, no, that's our designation. And she just giggled and, you know, moved on. So, you know what's lovely about that? Some people could be affronted, right? If it was someone else not living from that value. Because we know when people are insincere. We know when people say, this is my value and I believe in it wholeheartedly. And every fiber of your being's going, nope, I don't feel that at all. Might be with some politicians, but, you know, it can be with everybody. It can be with family, where they're, you know, they're saying one thing and there's something else. So pay attention. Pay attention to what you're drawn to. Last night, I've been listening to the live music, and Rachel Kane, was it? And I can't remember the gentleman's name. They were wonderful. I forgot how much I love listening to acoustic music, singer-songwriters. It just fills my soul. I was giddy. I was totally giddy. By the time the Optimistics got to the stage, I was like up here. And I realized that's another really important value to me. Enjoying live performances, watching other humans enjoy themselves and share their talents. It's huge. It's really important to me. And I was like, I'm going to seek more of this out. We're going to do more of this here. Just for me. But, you know, so pay attention not only to what feels good, but what feels bad. And then ask yourself, why isn't this working, or why is this working? And then focus on that value. Try and do everything with that value. So once you pick them, try holding that template up to even the most minuscule of things, doing the dishes, raking your yard, talking to a neighbor. What would my value? If I'm living from the value, what would that say? Next one's passion. I kind of touched on that with the music. Passion is getting that frequency up. Passion is picking out your value and then getting excited about it. What are the things that make me excited? So maybe it's creativity is one of your values. What gets you excited? What makes you feel creative? Is it making flowers, paper flowers for hours on end? I'm sure that is for a lot of you now. But there's other things, right? Dancing, learning how to do the computer. Thank you to Elizabeth, who stepped up to learn the tech aspect and help me out a bit, which is wonderful. Thank you. So get your passion. Start watching shows. I found this British portrait show, and it's just reignited my love of doing portraits. And I'm like, yes, I'm going to start this week. I got out my easel. I got out my now I can't remember what they call them. Frames, whatever. Canvas. There we go. Canvas. Woo! Yeah. Language isn't my value. So anyway, you know, to do it, but it got me excited. Find things, whatever your value is, find things that excite you about it. Look it up on YouTube. Look it up on the internet. Find those things that get your passion going, because that's what's going to help increase that frequency, which is going to make you an alchemist. It's going to turn that little bit of whatever that value is, grow, and all of a sudden you're living it, and everything is coming forward because the soul is happy. The The soul is doing what it wants to do here. And the last one is beliefs. Now, beliefs change all the time. And I want you to know, so can your values. So you can have really important values during one part of your life. And then they take a back seat and you have new values that become more and more important. That's totally normal. Nothing should remain the same. We're all about change here. We're all about being on the edge and moving forward and change. So, if you will find that you had beliefs when you were little that you don't have now, right? And you'll have beliefs when you were a mom and you raise your own kids, to beliefs you'll have when your kids have kids and you're watching how they raise them, right? Can have changes in beliefs. I've got a lot of siblings right now that are grandparents for the first time, and they're watching their children raise the kids differently than they did. So they're having to change their beliefs, their understanding of what's good for a child, right? You don't just give them a little smack on the butt and send them up to the room when they've been bad. There's discussion. There's how are they feeling? What is the emotion they're having right now? It's change. But change in beliefs are good. Change in beliefs, you should always challenge your beliefs. And that's sort of where unconscious bias comes in, is we need to be aware of what we believe, and then we have to have the nerve to say, oh, I can't believe I believe that. I'm going to change it, right? I'm going to change it. And then sometimes it's hard because your values all of a sudden don't line up with the belief you held. And that's where you do what Audrey was talking about last week, and go within. Really look inside and see what is so important, what value. Excuse me, a little frog. So we have the attention, the passion, and the belief. And all three of these help you live a value-led life. And always look at the three of them. What am I focusing on? What am I giving my attention to? What am I passionate about? How can I grow this? How can I be more excited about it? How can I surround myself with people that believe the same thing, like we do at this teaching? And the belief. What do I believe about this? What do I believe about these values that I'm holding so dear? Do I need to change them? Do I need to change my beliefs? And they're quite the same, but they all run into each other. It's all one beautiful little dance that creates our lives. But I do know one thing for sure. Once you start living from your values, you start really saying to people, I'm sorry, I can't do that. It works against my value. Sort of in Steph had said this morning in the meditation about setting boundaries. And this is Mother's Day, and mothers are horrible with boundaries, so you should have been here for the meditation. But really, think about it. We have to change our beliefs about different things, even with what a mother looks like. Because mothers are all different now. Families are all different. And it's such a wonderful thing to witness on the outer edge of it, but it also changes some of our belief systems, and therefore changes some of our values. So I always say, when someone has a value that isn't your own, bless them. Try to understand a little bit of where they're coming from. They are not the other. They're just on a lovely spectrum with you, and they're just further one way or the other. But stick to your own values. So if someone does say something to you that's in the front, speak up. Just say, I'm sorry. That's not what I believe. That's not where I come from, and I need to speak my truth. Leave it there. You don't need to convince anyone of your values but yourself, because you're the one turning lead into gold. You're the one creating only your life. You can't be creating anyone else's. So, just like with this talk, take what moves into your values, be passionate about it if you so choose, share it with other people, hide everyone on Zoom, and your beliefs. When you go to say, I believe something, challenge yourself. Say, why do I believe that? Is it true? I love Bryant's work, I forget her first name right now, where she asks the question, is it true? Katie, yes, Katie, thank you. Talks about, is it true? Is it really true? And I ask myself all the time that question. So I think my sister's mad at me. Is it true? I can't think so. She's in short on the phone. But do I know for sure it is true? And I'm telling you, 90% of the time I can't get past that second question. I don't know it to be true. I think maybe, but I don't know it. So therefore, I'm not going to suffer from it. So, with your values, ask yourself, is it true? Do I know this to be true? And then watch as you turn lead into gold in your life. And so it is.
So it is.